Undoubtedly, the most barbaric and violent elimination of human beings in the history of Ghana occurred on June 30th, 1982, which is now famously commemorated as Martyrs' Day every year, was the darkest day in Ghana's political, legal, and military history. It was the day that 3 learned High Court judges, including a pregnant woman, were abducted from their homes in the early evening, driven away to a military base outside Accra, and dastardly murdered. Their charred bodies were later found by ordinary citizens. The event shook the nation. J.J. Rawlings was the head of state, and Captain Tsikata was the national security boss. J.J. addressed the nation and promised to establish a full inquiry into the matter. He set up a Special Investigation Board, SIB. The SIB was chaired by former Chief Justice, the most learned Justice Azukrab. Here is Kevin Shillington writing on page 92 of his book, Ghana and the Rawlings Factor. A Special Investigations Board was set up on the 15th of July to investigate the killings. By then, rumors had already begun to circulate which alleged that members of the PNDC itself were involved in the crime, and that the killing of these particular judges, who had overturned the rulings of the previous AFRC regime, was in fact welcomed by the PNDC government, if not actually committed at its own instigation. Rumors got to such a pitch that a week later, J.J. Rawlings himself was driven to protest publicly his own innocence and that of other members of the PNDC. He pointed out that such a deed was totally against the interests of the government, particularly at a time when it badly needed to regain public credibility. The fact that the rumors had gained such a hold, however, was an indication of the extent to which the PNDC was losing the confidence of some articulate sections of the community in this matter. What made matters worse was that the rumors were not entirely without foundation. Over the next 5 months, the Special Investigations Board gradually unraveled the sordid details of the plot. A lance corporal and 3 colleagues confessed to the killings, but the most significant of all is that it emerged that the whole thing had been organized by Joachim Amatekwe, a member of the PNDC until his resignation in August 1982. Amatekwe made his first sworn testimony to the SIB in October 1982. Finally, in November, in what in retrospect can be seen as an attempt to blackmail the PNDC into saving him from the firing squad, Amatekwe tried to implicate Captain Kojo Tsikata, Special Security Advisor to the PNDC and a close colleague of J.J. Rawlings. Although the chairman of the Special Investigations Board, Justice Azukrab, accepted his latest allegation and recommended Captain Kojo Tsikata's arrest and prosecution, the Attorney General decided otherwise. So, as it turned out, the testimony of Joachim Amatekwe that Captain Tsikata had masterminded the murder was sustained by the former CJ, who recommended the prosecution of the captain among others. The Attorney General had the power to make the decision, and Justice Akins, the Attorney General of the day, decided to exclude Captain Tsikata from the prosecution. Eventually, Amatekwe and others were prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced to death by the firing squad. Then came the most dramatic of all events surrounding the murder of the 3 High Court judges. Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, the PNDC chairman, extracted a confession statement and an apology from Amatekwe just before he, Amatekwe, was due to be executed. The episode is captured in Kojo Yanke's book entitled My Motherland, My Life. On Thursday, 18th August 1983, Amatekwe was executed. On the afternoon of the day after the execution, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings invited editors of the mainstream media and selected foreign media representatives to a press briefing at the Ministry of Information, with the Minister, Joyce Aye, present. Subject matter was a playback of a confession Jerry Rawlings had recorded from an unusual pre-execution interview with Amatekwe, in which Kwe had said in part, quote, "Tell Captain Tsikata to forgive me. He knew nothing about the murder of the judges and the retired army officer. Please give all my entitlements to my children," unquote. Shock rang through the room. Eyes were exchanged by editors. Shocking for various reasons. Why did Rawlings choose to interview Amatekwe? Was this an opportunity for Amatekwe to now tell the world that he was influenced wrongly to drag the name of Captain Tsikata into the statements to the court about the murder? And why play back this chilling revelation to media personnel? For me as a newsman, This was very newsworthy. My editorial board at the Graphic agreed with me to carry the story. The Graphic front page headline the following morning, 22nd August 1983, was, quote, Amate Kwe's last words, unquote. The edition sold very fast on the newsstands. I noticed, to my surprise, that the editor of the Ghanaian Times, the sister newspaper, did not carry the story. Neither did the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. We at the Graphic could have done a second edition on the story. But the dramatic nature of this story continues in Kojo Yanke's book. He, as editor of the Graphic, lost his job. He captures this on page 46 of his book entitled Suspension from the Graphic as follows. It was a pleasure to receive the Minister of Information, Ms. Joyce Aye, in my office later that morning. She handed me a letter from her office. I was to proceed on indefinite suspension for gross indiscretion and bad taste in publishing and thereby reducing to the level of cheap journalistic scoop the last words of a penitent man. She told me that the chairman, being J.J. Rawlings, was not happy with my insensitive front page story and hence the letter. She also told me that it was an unpleasant task for her to perform, and I understood her position. No amount of professional explanation would make a difference. As soon as Joyce Aye left, I called my editorial team and informed them accordingly. I saw the sadness and sympathy on their faces. The following morning, I read the editorial column of the Ghanaian Times and found part of the reason stated in my suspension letter. Quote, the Graphic's insensitive front page scoop had made the head of state's talk look like a device to vindicate the regime, when Rawlings's real concern was that even if his comrade had lied in his attempt to save himself, he could at least die with the truth on his lips, unquote. I was convinced that I had done the right thing. Subsequently, Kojo Yanka, the now dismissed editor of the Graphic, was offered 2 separate jobs by the Minister for Information. According to the story, Kojo turned both jobs down, and then this happened, recorded on page 47 of Kojo Yanka's book entitled Director, Ghana Institute of Journalism. It's as follows. Early January 1984, I was invited to the office of Captain Kojo Tsikata, advisor to the head of state at the castle in Osu. Since I was not responding positively to any of the earlier proposals, a decision had been made to transfer me to the Ghana Institute of Journalism as director. I expressed my disagreement with it because my friend Cabral Blay Ameher is the head of the institution. The response was that Cabral is currently on a course in Europe and is being transferred to the Ministry of Information on his return. I reluctantly accepted the position on condition that this will be conveyed in an appropriate appointment letter. I received my appointment letter 3 days later and I reported to the Ghana Institute of Journalism. So to summarize the dramatic events involving the confession of Amate Kwe, Amate Kwe's confession was recorded by Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. The pivotal point of the confession was to demonstrate the innocence of Captain Tsikata, contrary to what Amate Kwe himself had told the SIB. Flight Lieutenant Rawlings wanted key media to know about this confession. Kojo Yanka, the editor of the Graphic, decided that all Ghanaians should know about it, so he published it on the front page of the Graphic. Kojo Yanka got dismissed. He was offered 2 other jobs by his boss, the Minister of Information. But then, later on, the subject matter of the confession, Captain Kojo Tsikata, invited Kojo Yanka to his office and gave him a new job as Director General of the Ghana Institute of Journalism. So, that was the dramatic state of affairs about Captain Tsikata and the gruesome murder of the 3 High Court judges and the retired army officer. The other matter, about which little has been said, is that even though 4 persons were convicted and sentenced to death by firing squad, one of them, Lance Corporal Amedeka, had been on the run until this day. He, Amedeka, was never executed. It is believed that he is abroad. However, in 2002, Captain Tsikata himself took the stage at the National Reconciliation Commission set up by the then Attorney General Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo under the auspices of President J.A. Kufuor. Captain Tsikata told the commission that the decision of the SIB to accept the testimony of Amate Kwe against him was born out of a conspiracy to undo him and to undo the PNDC regime.
For the past 20 years, I have been living under the pain of having these allegations made against me year in, year out, until today. And I have done my best this morning to demonstrate to this commission why I believe that the ICIB, after they issued their initial report on the 6th of November, began a political conspiracy against me. I can't precisely say why, but I believe because of the actions that they took and the circumstances of the time, that they were determined to have me removed from my position in the government, to discredit me and thereby discredit the government and prepare for the overthrow of the government. I have named the people who I believe took part in this conspiracy. Members of the board: Justice Azukrab, Mr. Lindsay, Reverend Dovlo, Jobo, Reverend Jobo, Mr. Quiz is now dead, and Mr. Amui. Those who helped them were, of course, some members of the police group attached to them, Idana and Odo, who took that famous statement, which the ICIB refers to as the historic statement of 23rd November 1982. And of course, Brigadier Nunu Mensah. For the reasons that I have given you regarding the circumstances under which he knew beforehand what Amatekwe was going to say in his statement of 23rd November. Mr. Chairman, I said that for 20 years I've been living under the pain of this monstrous allegation that I participated in this crime. I'm just pleading to you, members of this commission, to make available here the persons that I have named so that I can look them in the eye and ask them certain questions about how they came to engage themselves in such an elaborate frame-up which nearly cost my life. After all, this commission has given its platform to an international con man, Mr. Krisasha, who came here, raved and ranted for 2 hours, making all sorts of allegations against me, and I'm just pleading to give some opportunity for me also to question these people. After all, former Chief Justice of Ghana, a priest, Jobo, former head of CID, to ask them why they took part in such a conspiracy to frame me up.
All of the drama of 1982 and 83 said, it is important to observe that Captain Tsikata's period as National Security Capo of the PNDC recorded the highest number of missing persons, extrajudicial killings, and many exiled Ghanaian professionals out of the country. A lot more explanation may be required on these matters of the missing people and the extrajudicial killings. But alas, the captain is dead and gone. For now, we guess and we move on.